Years ago, a friend gifted me a medallion necklace made out to be a compass. With it, scrawled onto a sticky note, were the words, "So you might find your way." Naturally, I took it as a joke. Being moderately experienced with outdoorsy type stuff since my youth, it was hard to see the practicality of an inarticulate silver windrose as a navigational tool. Like any decent adventurer, I've been lost quite a few times in my life. It's terrifying, frustrating, arduous, and demands an amount of character to get unlost. Or, well, dumb luck. In reality, being lost isn't so much about not knowing where you are, but not knowing where to go. This goes beyond the literal sense of being lost. The figurative sense is just as important. The fact is, you were already lost. You were lost before you ever begun an adventure. The goal is to have the tools to get yourself unlost. Adventuring is being lost, going out into the unknown so you might find your way through it. Perhaps the most basic question of adventure is where. With a world of possibility, it can be a bit hard to make a choice. Most of us have dream trips, places we'd want to go someday. But this isn't practical for a new adventurer. We have to look closer to home. We have to learn how to adventure. Adventure is in the route. Although the most basic question is where, the most important is how to get there. Before ever choosing a route, it's important to understand them. In mathematics, there is a concept known as degrees of freedom. A funny term. Basically the number of possible ways to reach a given answer, based on the number of individual choices made through the problem. For every decision, every factor, another degree is added. For each crossroad, for every site, every pacing, and every concern, you add more and more disorder. Give me a place, and I'll give you 10,000 ways to get there. Tell me how, and I'll find one better. The reality is that route planning is dealing with chaos. Fortunately, this is the mark of the adventurer, managing possibility. The only way to do this is by placing limits, preferences, restrictions. For adventure riding, there are a few givens. We know that it involves travel by motorcycle, and that the focus is on scenery. So, daylight riding only. But this narrows down things only so much. So many factors can only be known with experience. You'll need to learn how far you can go before needing to refuel, how long and how quickly you can ride on a given surface, how many days you have to get where you're going, how many hours in the day, what weather will be like, when particular roads are rideable, when sites are open, how much will it cost, and how much money you're willing to spend. For each of these things, you'll need to have some idea before heading out. Unfortunately, getting an idea is a bit of a catch-22 for adventurers. The only way to learn much of this is by adventuring. To become an adventurer, you have to adventure. All the words in the world can't describe an experience you've never had, but some words might give you an idea. Adventure begins with maps. No, I don't mean those poster-sized sheets of paper, but the looser sense of map. A described location, simplified for easy use by someone else. There's a whole field of study, and solid careers for those who collect and detail maps in ways beyond what you'd imagine. Such technicians add layer upon layer of information, from geosynced photos to personal descriptions. This doesn't mean to say that there's not a lot to discover. Far from that. But there is only so much you can ever find secondhand. There's a chasm between knowing something and understanding it. For every document, the creator assumes something about you, and what you're going to use it for. Learning to read between the lines is a critical skill for an adventurer. There is so much information surrounding a given resource, why it was made, who it was made for, when it was made, and how reliable the source is. Becoming an adventurer doesn't just mean seeing the world, but the people in it, and exactly what they mean. Seasoned adventurers collect maps, building their own, from every factor that might describe the utility of the road, the landforms, the geological and historical interest. Detailed sites like trailtaker.com, the love child of Meeker Extreme and the FLB Club, serve to provide accurate trail ratings and even footage of many routes. In my experience, I've come to collect many maps, as so many things can speak to what you might see. A few of my favorite resources I'll leave in the description. The biggest part of learning how to read maps is seeing what symbols mean in person. One of the most beneficial things you can do is explore by map, to find unique places and see how they are in real life. Before you can get anywhere, you have to learn to see your surroundings, to understand the environment around you and how it all works together. So go out and explore for day trips and afternoons. Take a road and find where it ends, then another road and another. Find something on the horizon and try to get there. Open your eyes and pay attention. So where to go for a first adventure? Well, for that, we have to talk about routes. Remember, time is the most important factor for adventuring, and it plays in more ways than you'd think. A trip always begins and ends with your home. But this doesn't mean you're using back roads the entire time, or even riding. There's a good way to get a rough estimate on how long the trip takes. Take your home, then with a mapping software, check avoid highways, and find towns 6 or 7 hours away in every direction. Connect them to form a circle, assuming you traveled in daylight, and took a few hours for breaks and whatnot. This is how far you can get using the most efficient route in a single day. Using a reasonably direct backroads route, this will take 2 days. You can draw routes through this and figure out where to start and where to stop with the time frame you have. I'd say to put off making your own route for as long as possible. Take sections of established routes, ones that are easy to bail out on if necessary. Look for something open-ended, with options. Route building is very much an art. Over weeks and months, a designer carves a path from a rough concept to something beautifully refined. The process is a circular one, constantly moving up and down in terms of scale, mapping possibilities and checking them for utility. Although it isn't impossible for a novice to design a route, it is very much like an amateur learning how to draw. Yes, you can make your way, but to find the nuances of challenge and beauty, to make something efficient that works for you, that is difficult. But I can say that it is well worth it, once you do learn how, because no route designed by someone else will ever quite apply to you perfectly. Going on any adventure is a challenge. Well, at least the good ones are. But you'll find that out soon enough.